Polls have officially opened for the last day of voting in the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum. The yes and no campaigns have until 6 p.m. to make their final bids to voters to determine if Indigenous Australians will be recognised in the Constitution through a voice to Parliament. We have reporters across the country. First to Holly Edwards-Smith, who's in Reservoir in Melbourne's north. Holly, good morning to you. This has certainly been a long campaign for both sides, and this is the final opportunity for votes to be cast. The area you're in has a strong connection to the fight for recognition.
Janie, it certainly does. I'm in Reservoir in Melbourne's north. It's in the electorate of Cooper, which was named after Yorta man William Cooper, who was a strong advocate and spokesperson for direct representation of Aboriginal Australians in Parliament, as well as increased land rights and direct control of Aboriginal affairs on a federal level. In fact, St Gabriel's School, one of the voting centres here in Reservoir, has a strong, loud, big Womanjaka welcome on its front facade. But despite this, the front gates of the primary school are laid bare. There are no AEC signs, no yes or no campaign call flutes anywhere really around this school, despite now officially polls being open on what's the last day that Australians can cast their votes. Of course, they only have just opened, so we are expecting this to get a little bit busier throughout today. It could be quiet so far and a different atmosphere to what might normally be expected for a state or federal election, because a quarter of eligible Australians have already cast their votes, with 2 million electing to vote via the post for this referendum, the first in 24 years. It certainly has been a long campaign for both the yes and no campaigners. There's still a lot of questions that Australians have about how this will look, and it's something that the opposition leader Peter Dutton is certainly trying to focus on in the lead up to votes officially closing at 6 p.m. today. Yes campaigners and the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese along the campaign have continued pushing the messaging that this is the right thing to do, and that recognition of Indigenous Australians in the Constitution is the right step forward to close the gap. There are now just 10 hours until votes close and they start being counted, and we'll finally get an answer to this question, Janie, that has been on Australians' minds certainly over the past few months, but really for decades now.
Absolutely. The countdown is on. Holly Edwards-Smith, thank you very much for joining us live in Melbourne. Liberal MP Julian Leeser, who quit the coalition frontbench to support the Voice to Parliament, will spend the morning campaigning in his Sydney electorate. Let's go live to Gabriella Power, who's at Thornley on Sydney's Upper North Shore. Gab, good morning. Still looks a little quiet where you are, but has he arrived yet?
He has, Janie. Member for Barara Julian Leeser is here on the ground. He's handing out how to vote cards and also handing out biscuits. But Julian, thank you for your time. Referendum day is finally here. Can you believe it after the months and years of work that you've put into this?
It's a historic day for Australia. I'm very excited about it. It's a day for Australians to vote with their hopes. Hope for a better future for our Indigenous Australians. It's a chance for us to close the gap. It's a chance for us to complete the Constitution. It's the chance for us to build a better country. And this is a great country. It's the best country in the world to live in. And this will make it even better. And I'm delighted to be here in my community handing out how to vote cards. And as you said, I've made biscuits here, or rather a local bakery has made biscuits. And we're giving these only to the volunteers, but we're giving them not just to the yes volunteers, but we're giving them to the no volunteers as well, because we want to remind people that wherever we are, we're all Australians.
I'll have to try those a bit later on as well. If the yes vote does not get up tonight and it is a no result, will you have any regrets about quitting Cabinet?
No, I've taken the stand that I've taken because I wanted to be here on this day, handing out how to vote cards in my electorate and campaigning for something that I believe in. Because one of the great things about this referendum is that I believe it'll help us close the gap. We can't continue in a country where we've got Indigenous people with an 8-year life expectancy that's lower than the rest of the population, with a suicide rate that is 2.5 times higher than the rest of the population, where the education and health outcomes for Indigenous Australians are not what they are for other Australians. And I believe that listening to Indigenous Australians about the policies and laws that affect them will make a real difference in closing that gap, and that's what today's all about.
If there is that no result tonight, though, where to from here?
Well, I think this evening we will have to take a moment to reach out to our Aboriginal friends to reflect on that result and to recommit ourselves to reconciliation. That's the important thing. But I am working hard every day, for the whole of the rest of the day, to make sure I get every Australian to vote yes today, and that's certainly what I'll be doing across my electorate.
Finally, Julian, Lisa, how have you been balancing this week with all your campaign work and also reaching out to relatives in Israel?
Look, this has been a tragic time for the Jewish community around the world. It's the largest loss of life of Jewish people since the Holocaust, with 1,300 people murdered in Israel, women who've been taken hostage, children who've been captured, caged and killed, Holocaust survivors kidnapped. I stand with the people of Israel, and I want to acknowledge that there are people right across my community who've reached out to me, regardless of their view on the referendum, to say that they stand with me, and I know that's where most Australians are today.
Julian, Lisa, really appreciate you taking the time this morning to speak to us about both issues. We'll leave you to it and get back to campaigning. Thank you. That is Member for Barara, Julian Lisa. It is a bit quiet here at Thornley. A couple of people are starting to stream through. There are plenty of yes campaigners on the ground, a couple of no campaigners as well, and I believe the sausage sizzle will be getting underway in an hour's time.
Well, you've got plenty to munch on there by the looks of it then, with the sausage sizzle and also the biscuits. Gabriella Power, thank you very much. And we'll touch base with Gab throughout the day. Emotions are certainly high in the crucial swing state of Tasmania as they continue casting their votes, being the only Liberal governed state in the country. Natural early trends could be an indicator. Let's go live to Lauren Evans in Sorell. So, Lauren, good morning to you. We spoke to you an hour ago. It was all pretty quiet, but what's happening at the moment?
Thanks, guys. There is plenty of action down here already this morning. As soon as the doors opened, there was a line of people lining up, ready to cast their votes. Obviously, we know Tasmania has been a battleground state throughout this whole campaign. It was just yesterday the Prime Minister was here for the 6th or 7th time this year, campaigning and rallying support for that yes vote. Now, I'm in a town about 30 minutes out of Hobart, and I have managed to speak to a couple of people on the ground, both from the yes and no campaign. But what has been clear is a lot of voters are disappointed about how this voice debate has turned into a bit of a political fight. I had one woman who has voted yes, but says she doesn't believe the campaign will win and placed that blame solely on the government. Take a listen.
There was never a proper explanation as to what it would do and how it would help people. And how it would affect the rest of the population. And I think that's where the government's been at fault totally.
I'm not too sure if it's going towards reconciliation or more division, so I need more clarity on that.
Unfortunately, the debate's been made by party political muckiness, really. Dutton's doing it purely to damage Albanese. That's all. He's got no other reason for saying no.
Of course, plenty supporting the no campaign as well, saying that the Prime Minister has used the voice to divert attention away from other issues.
I believe that what the federal government is doing is using the voice issue as a smokescreen for the real problems in the community that we've got.
I just feel a bit bullied by the yes campaigners, actually.
How come?
Just because they're in your face all the time and there's so much advertising and just the words they're using. I'd like to make up my own mind.
That's a bit of the mood down here this morning, but things are picking up, signs are going up. There should be a sausage sizzle down here as well, but I will be speaking to the Labor leader later this morning and I'll have those updates for you as the morning unfolds. Thanks, guys.
All right, certainly is a historic day, the first referendum in 24 years. Thanks very much, Lauren.